The payroll tax cut is set to expire soon, but not if Obama has anything to say about it. I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for the front page.
Traditionally, Republicans have tried to claim the mantle of being in favor of every tax cut. They never want to raise taxes. And yet, we have the prospect in 20-some days that 160 million Americans will see their taxes go up by an average of $1,000. And yet, it's become a negotiation where they think that in order for us to do something that's common sense and needed for our economy, that somehow they're doing me a favor. This isn't something you do for me.
Right. Joining me in studio, Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights, and Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. All right, guys, this week Republicans responded by passing a payroll tax-cutting bill in the House, but they're tying it to the pipeline, and they don't have it being paid for with a millionaire's tax, and this thing is moving. I mean, as we tape this, it's still moving, because these guys want to go home for Christmas. Yeah. So what's the latest in terms of what's happening here in the moves back and forth?
Well, it seems like they're going to have a deal. I mean, there will be a deal, and I would be surprised if there is any tax on anyone.
Well, I think as of now, the Democrats have already backed off of the idea of a millionaire's tax. Again, always. They will always end up being like, okay, fine. We won't do that. Do you think the XL pipeline is going to get in there?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think this is part of the foolishness that the Obama administration has engaged in, basically holding the healthiest part of our economy right now hostage because they want to negotiate higher taxes on the rich, which is absolutely stupid. But this is the kind of thing we've come to expect from them.
Well, what about the argument? Hey, the Bush tax cuts were not paid for. They weren't paid for. There are a lot of things that happened under the Republican administration, 8 years, that were not paid for. Why are the Republicans suddenly giving a crap about paying for something, and particularly a tax cut when theoretically, this is Obama's point, they're always for cutting taxes, and they never want to pay for them. Why do they want to pay for them now?
Obama's right. I mean, Obama's right. The problem fundamentally of government today is not taxes. The problem fundamentally is spending. Mm-hmm. And it's a Republican problem. They helped create it, not just during Bush's administration, but over the last 50, 60, 70 years. They've been spending money like crazy. And it's time to get serious, not about a 2% pay. I mean, what the Republicans should have done is propose to do away with payroll taxes altogether and see if Obama bites. Really help the middle class. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, if this little percentage reduction that puts $1,000 in every family's pocket is so good, if this is stimulative, if this is great, why don't we take that logical to its next step? But you won't do that.
But the real problem is spending, 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 growth of government, size of government, unlimited government. That's the problem. And until Republicans are really willing to pound away at that, until the Democrats, some Democrats I think are open to this, are willing to take this seriously, nothing will budge. But clearly Obama's vision for the American government is a much, much bigger government. So he doesn't care about deficits, he doesn't care about debt, he doesn't care about taxes. He does care about taxes on the rich, only on the rich, on the so-called rich. But what he wants to do is grow government, grow its control over the economy and over our lives. That's his goal.
All right, recently the White House website has created a clock counting down the time until the payroll tax cut expires. I would love to take a poll of your average American worker out there. Did you notice that your payroll taxes went down over the last year? Because they put this in a year ago. Like, did you really notice? Did your lifestyle change? Did you spend this money in some different way? And then all of a sudden, this thing will never go away. Every year they're going to have to do this. I mean, it's a permanent tax cut. Well, who's going to be the one who says, this is the year. Yeah. This is the January where we finally raise the taxes by $1,000 on the average American family.
That's a big issue because the Social Security system as it is now is currently bankrupt. So it means basically we're borrowing to pay Social Security retirees right now. We're borrowing the money from our kids. I hate to use that phrase because it's used so often, but it's so true. We're borrowing the money and we got to pay it back. And so the notion that people have that they are getting a tax cut is a false one. This is more phony, fraudulent accounting by the Obama-nots to convince people that they've gotten a tax cut. They've gotten something for nothing. They've gotten nothing. They got more debt for this. This is a bad, bad thing. It should expire. We don't need it. If you want to cut,
it's not stimulative. I mean, they can't track any particular job growth or job creation. But you know what they'll say? Jobs were not lost because this tax cut was in place, right? Because if you can't identify a job created, you say that a job was saved. All right, the White House recently issued an illuminating new video explaining the payroll tax cuts to everyday Americans. Let's take a look.
The President believes that we need to pass this tax cut in a way that's fair and has balance. One of his ideas is to pay for it by asking the wealthiest Americans, those making over $1 million a year, to pay a little bit more in taxes. Now, that would mean that about 300,000 of the wealthiest Americans in this country would pay a little more to provide 160 million Americans this kind of tax relief. It's balanced and it has a lot of support across the political spectrum outside of Washington.
They're asking
very clever, the two-angle shot, by the way, which is how they shoot financial commercials these days. They shoot people in profile talking to some camera over there, and then they cut over here. They're pretty stylistic, and it's balanced, Terry.
How do you get balanced from basically stealing money from 300,000 people to give it to 160 million? That's called coercion.
They're the 1%.
And theft.
And notice how he uses it. They're going to ask.
300,000 versus
they're welcome to
300
ask me.
Oh,
they're welcome to ask me. They're going to ask me. No, they're going to take a gun and they're going to force me to help the 100 and whatever million. But this is the problem.
And the context of what are those $300,000 Americans? 300,000 Americans. What is the average they're contributing in taxes to?
40% of the tax bill comes from that top 1%, and now they're going to be coerced into providing even more. When does it end? Why not? Let's cut everybody's taxes. Let's take it completely to zero and have the top 1%, whoever they are, pay it all. I mean, let's pay it all. Why not? I mean, you'd save taxes.
According to the kid with the whiteboard, that'd be balanced.
200 million people would be better off. And so what? So 1% get coerced. I mean, if you do the utilitarian function on it, you come out pretty well. So let's go for it.
Well, I mean, this is the class warfare system we've created here, and Obama knows how to drive a wedge between us. He's created a lot of resentment, a lot of envy. These are very sad things to see, because what they do is they pit individuals, classes against one another, rather than letting people understand that their true salvation and happiness lies in individual.
And let's remember that 1%, those rich, so-called rich, most of them are the most productive job creators in the U.S. economy. The rest of the 99% not only relies on them for the tax revenue, but also rely on them for the jobs, the ideas, the entrepreneurship, the investment, the capital to create the U.S. economy, to allow it to continue to grow, to make whatever prosperity we have in this country still possible.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Good discussion. For your own. And Terry, I'm Alan Barton. You've been watching Front Page.